This is how to get a listing every single month by doing geo farming. Step 1 of 5, I need you to choose a budget. Now, if your budget is $6,000 a year, that's $500 a month. What I want you to keep in mind, and do not make the mistake that most agents make, is most of the transactions you sell are gonna happen between months 6 and 12 from when you start this process. So the first 6 months, you're building a brand, you're establishing a presence, you're hitting them the same audience over and over and over and over. So what you do is you set a budget that you can stick to. Do not go too big and then realize you can't afford it and then you scale back or cut it out completely or just wasting your money. You gotta start small. I like $500 a month over and over until you get your first sale, and that's when you can double down. Step 2, decide who your target demographic is. For example, if you're military, you might wanna go after a military community. If you're Spanish speaking, you might wanna have to go after a Spanish speaking community. If you don't own a boat, you probably shouldn't go after all of the harborfront homes that are ultra luxury. You wanna make sure that whatever demographic you are going after, you are also a part of. It's just gonna make your life easier. Number 3, we're gonna choose one specific neighborhood and you're gonna stay on top of them for the rest of your life. So what I'm gonna have you do is write down your top 3 to 5 neighborhoods that you really like, ideally that you live in, and here's what we're looking for. We want to have a strong turnover percentage. 3% is minimum, 4% is good. If you can get 5%, that is considered excellent. That is the best of the best, and you should go after that. The next thing you want to think about when you're choosing this neighborhood is what is the median price point of this area? Luxury homes have an ultra low turnover and are much harder to break into. There's always a lot bigger presence. You have to outspend a market to be a part of it. So what I like is go after solid, good, median price point homes. In my neighborhood, this would be 400 to 800,000. And because there's a lot of sales that happen there, it has great turnover, of course, and you don't need to spend so much money because there's not as many people going after it. The next thing you look for when you're choosing this neighborhood is what is the average days on market. Don't go after homes that take 12 months to sell. What we're trying to do is generate leads and then sales. And if it takes a year to make any money back, now it's a lot harder to double down. And then the last thing I really think about when choosing a great area is there already a dominant agent? If there is someone that's doing 25% of sales there every year, that means they're spending a lot of money and time on marketing and advertising, which means the only way that you break in and capture some of that business is by outspending and outworking them. Let's not make our life harder than we need to. Number 4, choose what type of content to send. The very best response I found is from personalized CMAs. This is where you send them a letter telling them what their home is worth, exactly, not a range, and how long it's gonna take to sell. Followed by the next best is handwritten cards where you offer your services. For example, you could say something like, we just sold your neighbor's home at Banana Street. We are offering free staging, cleaning, and photography for everybody that hires us this month. Are you interested? And then the very last thing that I've sometimes done, but I've seen to be mostly poor, is just generic typed letters that has their name on it offering services to a community. And so it's just something kind of like, hey, we're looking for some clients, or hey, we have a buyer looking for this area, and it's all typed up. They do okay, you can still be profitable on them, but it's just not the best. And then step 5 is deciding if you're going to do this yourself, in-house, or if you're going to outsource this. Pros and cons of both. If you're handwriting and doing this yourself, obviously the cost is lower, but the time is way higher. If you're hiring an internal team, your cost is gonna be really high. Your time is probably going to be high because you're managing them, or if you're outsourcing this, time is low, cost is probably going to be a little bit higher. So you want to balance those options. What I find though is you got to send these on the same day every single month. You want consistency from this brand. And if you hire somebody, it's going to be a lot more likely that it gets done because you as a founder and owner of this company, you have a million things going on. Whereas if this is somebody's only job, obviously it's going to be prioritized. Consistency is key, obviously. So here's some tips on just things I've learned over time. Number 1, if you want to take 12 listings per year and you have an area of 1,500 homes that has a 4% turnover rate. And if you send CMAs, personalized valuations, you should get about 12 listings your first year. Number 2, you'll have far more success if you pair this with door knocking and mega open houses. You need to be present in this community. And if you live there, that's even better because now the homeowners see you at the grocery store and at all these places and at the schools. You want to turn yourself from this random face on a letter to an actual real person that they can reach out to. That's why number 3 is it's always best to focus on areas near where you live. Number 4 tip that I've learned is direct mail advertising is the only way where you can consistently and reliably produce seller leads. I've tried to do seller lead generation from Zillow, tried to do it from Facebook ads, from Google ads, trying to do it from like everything else. And the only thing that's ever been able to scalably produce seller leads for me has been direct mail. Because obviously you're going after homeowners and the only person you're sending advertising to are homeowners. And what's nice about homeowners is every single one of them qualify, unlike a buyer. So they're higher use of your time and they're higher converting leads overall. So a common question and mistake I see agents make is how many letters should you send to one particular neighborhood? Should you add other neighborhoods? How does that work? Here's what you should do for your first year. You send 1 letter per month to the same neighborhood every single month. You do not change. So let's say you're going after 1,500 homes or even 500 homes. You go after those same homes every month. Because again, we're building a brand. We're not just focused on peppering people that don't care. Most of this is going to go in the trash the first 5 or 6 times they see it. But if you're consistent and your messaging is consistent, they will start to remember you. And if you have, let's say, an area of 1,000 homes, we know that the average homeowner, their turnovers, they're only gonna sell 5% a year. So in 1,000 homes, you have 50 sales that occur in a given period, or most homeowners only sell 1 out of every 7 years. You gotta find them in that small window of time. It's less about just hitting people at that right moment because you're never gonna be able to do that. It's more about consistently staying in front of them so you are the expert and everybody knows you're the expert. That's why it's easier to go after homes near where you live, which brings me to one of the most common mistakes I see agents make is they overcomplicate what they send them. And this great copywriter said, Robert Bly, don't be overly zealous on your advertising because the purpose of advertising is to make sales, not to be creative. And if you can make sales without being creative, that's just better. And clear, concise advertising will almost always outproduce any creative advertisements ever, which is why we send the same thing every single month. We send a home valuation with a QR code to a landing page and a lead magnet. The same thing every time. And agents will sometimes say, well, I want to send all these other things and all these creatives out. Why? Your job, advertising, is to produce leads and sales. And if the same thing produces better results than creativeness, that is the move. There are companies that have been running the same commercial, the same slogan, 50 years or more, 15% or more on car insurance. Geico has not stopped saying that for the last 30 years. There's a reason, because it works. And sure, they play around with their creative, but there's companies that have been doing the same radio spot ad, the same letter, the same piece. And when you find something that works, you keep doing it. It's not time to change. I hope this helps you realize how you need to target advertising and direct mail to capture seller leads. I've spent tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars on direct mail, and I have learned all of the bad lessons. There was a point where I had probably sent out 15 postcards in a row with 0 results or sales. That's a lot of money wasted, but what I learned was postcards just have a way lower response rate than direct mail letters or handwritten letters. And so take the lessons and the mistakes I've made and just copy and paste and start doing sales. And then when you get better than me, then you can start iterating. Down below, I've got a guide about all of this. I've got all the good copies and letters I've sent. I've got all the bad ones that you can just make sure to never send. Please subscribe because it goes a long way. Aloha.